Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about, dive in, and pull out the key insights for you. Fast, focused, and hopefully pretty engaging.
Exactly. It's designed for, well, for the learner in you.
Hmm.
Someone who wants to get the core ideas quickly, loves those aha moments, but maybe doesn't want to wade through tons of information.
So today's aha moments come from
We're digging into some excerpts from ancient texts. Let's call them our sticky notes for this session.
sticky notes. I like it. Captures those bits that really stay with you. Okay, so what are these notes about? What's the story?
We're jumping right into a really intense period. It's just after a huge royal ceremony, the Rajasuya sacrifice. Think of it as a king declaring, "I'm the top dog."
Okay, a big power move.
Right. But what follows immediately is, well, it's a disaster unfolding. We see this tense assembly, a dice game that goes horribly wrong, and the direct fallout from it.
High stakes, high drama. Sounds like our mission is clear then. Figure out how this conflict blew up, what the turning points were that basically set the course for destruction, all from these sticky notes.
Yep. And I think you'll find some surprising details in there.
I'm ready. Where do we start? Right after the big ceremony.
Pretty much immediately after.
Yeah.
Even as King Yudhishthira is celebrating this massive success, the sage Vyasa shows up.
Ah, a sage appearing usually means something significant is about to happen. Not always good news either.
Exactly. Vyasa delivers this really heavy prophecy, and you have to remember, the words of someone like Vyasa carried enormous weight back then.
A prophecy right after a triumph. Okay, classic storytelling. What did he predict? Let's unpack that.
He foretold 13 years of terrible conflict, specifically targeting the Kshatriyas, the warrior class.
13 years.
And he linked it directly to the Duryodhana's, let's call them sins or wrongdoings, and also to the sheer power of Bhima and Arjuna on the other side.
So, naming names, setting up the sides already. Anything else in the prophecy?
Yes, something quite specific. He told Yudhishthira he'd have a particular dream, filled with imagery of the god Shiva. Very potent stuff.
Okay, that's a lot to take in right after your biggest success. How does Yudhishthira react?
He takes it incredibly seriously. His response is to vow, right then and there, that he will avoid any kind of confrontation for 13 years.
A vow of non-violence, basically, or non-aggression.
Non-confrontation seems the best way to put it. He's trying to sidestep the prophecy, perhaps.
Seems like a reasonable plan, trying to diffuse things, but I suspect it wasn't that simple. What else was going on?
Well, while Yudhishthira is processing this, Duryodhana, who is also at the Rajasuya, is just simmering with envy.
Ah, the green-eyed monster. What triggered it specifically?
The sheer wealth and influence of the Pandavas on display. Our sources, these sticky notes, they really detail the tributes they received. It paints an incredible picture.
Give me some examples. What kind of riches are we talking about?
Oh, amazing things, like exquisite deer skins from Cambodia, beautiful blankets, endless streams of elephants, camels, just piled high with jewels.
So, a serious display of wealth.
Absolutely. And respect, too. Masses of learned brahmanas were fed, honored with gifts. And get this, even the ocean was said to have brought gifts.
Wait, the ocean brought gifts? How does that work?
The text mentions the ocean delivering some kind of nectar, better than anything on earth, apparently, in special white copper vessels.
Wow.
And at the end, Krishna himself bathed Yudhishthira with seawater from 1,000 golden jars, each studded with gems.
Okay, that's beyond just wealth. That's
Yeah.
almost divine favor being shown. No wonder Duryodhana felt envious.
Exactly. It highlights their legitimacy, their power. But Duryodhana's experience wasn't just watching this. He had his own issues.
Oh. What happened to him?
He had some rather embarrassing moments in the Pandavas' assembly hall. It was apparently built with illusions.
Illusions.
Like mistaking polished crystal floors for water, so he lifts his robes to wade through nothing. Then stumbling into an actual pool he thought was crystal.
Oh, dear. That sounds humiliating, especially in front of everyone.
Deeply humiliating. And public shame like that, well, it breeds resentment, doesn't it?
Definitely. So who's there to pour fuel on that fire? Let me guess. Sakuni.
You guessed it. Sakuni, ever the manipulator, sees Duryodhana's envy and jumps right in.
What's his angle?
He knows Yudhishthira has a weakness. He loves playing dice. But crucially, he's not very good at it.
A known weakness.
And Sakuni, he's a master of dice. Especially, let's say, creative dice play. So he suggests a plan.
Let me guess. Let's have a friendly game of dice.
Pretty much. Let's invite Yudhishthira for a game. I'll play for you, and we can win all that wealth he just showed off. exploiting that known weakness.
Okay, so it's a setup from the start. But surely Duryodhana's father, King Dhritarashtra, wouldn't just agree to such an obviously rigged and provocative plan.
Well, Dhritarashtra hesitates. He does. He has Vidura, his wise half-brother, advising him against it. Vidura warns him explicitly about the danger, about causing division.
So there's some resistance.
Yes, but Duryodhana is relentless. He puts immense pressure on his father. He even threatens suicide if he doesn't get his way.
Suicide? Wow, that's serious emotional blackmail.
And it works. Dhritarashtra caves. Despite Vidura's warnings, he agrees.
So the game is on. They even build a special place for it.
Yes, Duryodhana insists on a magnificent new assembly hall just for the dice game, really rubbing it in.
And Vidura, does he try one last time?
He does. He makes another passionate plea to Dhritarashtra. He talks about political morality, the sin of causing dissent through gambling, predicting disaster.
But he's ignored. A classic case of wisdom being overruled by desire.
Tragically, yes. So the invitation goes out to Yudhishthira.
And how does Yudhishthira take it? Is he suspicious?
Yeah.
Eager?
He seems reluctant. He accepts almost fatalistically, acknowledging maybe the pull of destiny or perhaps the obligation of the king to accept such a challenge. He seems to sense trouble, though.
So he walks into the trap, and the game begins. Is it as unfair as Sakuni planned?
Absolutely. It's a complete mismatch. Sakuni is cheating, using loaded dice, using his skill against Yudhishthira's known lack of it. It's systematic.
What kind of things does Yudhishthira start losing? It must escalate quickly.
It does, hugely. First, vast wealth, jars and jars of gold coins, they mention Nishkas. Then horses, thousands of them, specific breeds, chariots, warriors, his entire army, basically.
Good grief. He's losing everything that signifies his power.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then, it gets personal. He stakes his brothers.
No, he stakes his own brothers.
Yes, one by one. Nakula. Sahadeva. Then the text mentions Bhima and Arjuna. He loses them all. They become slaves to Duryodhana.
I can't even imagine losing his brothers like that.
And then, the final, unthinkable step. He stakes himself.
And loses.
And loses. He loses his own freedom, his sovereignty. He belongs to Duryodhana now.
This is just catastrophic, but the cruelty doesn't stop there, does it? This is when Draupadi gets dragged into it.
Yes. Duryodhana, savoring his victory, issues a truly vicious order. Bring Draupadi, the shared wife of the Pandavas, into the assembly.
Just bring her in like property. That's incredibly degrading.
It is. And when she's brought against her will, she asks this incredibly sharp question.
What does she ask?
She asks, did Yudhishthira stake me before he lost himself or after?
Ah, a brilliant question. If he'd already lost himself, he wasn't his own master. Did he even have the right to stake her then?
Precisely. It cuts right to the legality, the morality of the whole situation. Did he even have standing?
It highlights the utter injustice. How do they respond to that? How is she actually brought in? The sources are quite graphic, aren't they?
They are. It's brutal. Duwith and his brother, Dussasana, physically drags her into the hall. By her hair.
By your hand.
Yes. And this is crucial. She's in her monthly cycle, wearing only a single piece of cloth. For someone consecrated during the Rajasuya, this is sacrilege, a deliberate, profound violation.
That image. Dragged by the hair. It's horrific. And what about the elders? Bhishma, Drona, the king himself? Where are they in all this?
Draupadi pleads with them, desperately. She calls them out by name: Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, Dhritarashtra. She demands justice, questions their silence.
Did they speak up?
They are shamefully silent, or they equivocate. Their inaction is a damning indictment of the court's moral collapse. Basically them condoning this atrocity.
Their silence is deafening, utterly shameful. But then something extraordinary happens, doesn't it? Something almost miraculous.
Yes. As Dussasana tries to strip her naked in front of everyone, her sari, her garment, just keeps extending. He pulls and pulls, but there's always more fabric. He can't disrobe her.
Seriously, like magically regenerating cloth.
That's how it's described. An endless supply of cloth. It's presented as divine intervention, protection from dharma, the principle of righteousness, maybe through Krishna's compassion.
Wow. That's a powerful moment of defiance, even if divine. How do the Pandavas react to seeing their wife subjected to this, even with the miracle?
Bhima completely loses it. He's shaking with rage. He makes this terrifying vow right there in the assembly.
What does he vow?
He swears he will personally break Duryodhana's tie in battle, and that he will rip open Dussasana's chest and drink his blood.
Drink his blood. Good heavens, those are promises you don't forget. They seal the future conflict right there, don't they?
Absolutely, they hang over the rest of the story. But amidst all the silence and cruelty, wasn't there one person who spoke out?
Yes, one voice of dissent. Vikarna, actually one of Duryodhana's own brothers.
What did he say?
He argues that Draupadi wasn't fairly won. He points out Yudhishthira was compelled, addicted to the game, essentially not in his right mind. And he questions the morality of staking a shared wife in a game of vice anyway. So a moment of courage and conscience from within the Kaurava side itself. How did that go down? Especially with someone like Karna.
Karna immediately shuts him down, scornfully. He makes vile comments about Draupadi having multiple husbands, implying she's basically a loose woman and deserves this.
That's incredibly harsh. What else does Karna do?
He then orders that the Pandavas and Draupadi be stripped of their upper garments, just to pile on the humiliation.
And do they, the Pandavas having lost everything, do they just comply?
Yes. Bound by the twisted logic of the game, completely powerless, they silently remove their upper clothes. It's a picture of total defeat and shame.
I have no words. That whole sequence is just gut-wrenching. What happens right after? Does Dhritarashtra finally snap out of it?
He seems to. Terrible omens start appearing. Jackals howling, donkeys braying. Dhritarashtra gets scared. He makes a move to appease the Pandavas.
What does he do?
He offers Draupadi boons, and through her, effectively gives the Pandavas back their freedom, their kingdom, everything they lost. They actually leave and head back to their city, Kandavaprastha.
So, for a moment, it looks like disaster averted. A chance to reset.
For a fleeting moment. But Duryodhana isn't having it. His envy is still burning. He goes back to his father.
Oh no, not again.
Again. He manipulates Dhritarashtra, argues that letting the Pandavas go, armed and angry, is dangerous. He insists on one more dice game.
Another dice game. After everything that happened. What are the stakes this time?
This time, the stakes are fixed. Exile. Loser goes into exile.
Unbelievable. Does anyone else try to stop this madness? What about Gandhari, Duryodhana's mother?
Gandhari pleads with Dhritarashtra. She begs him to abandon Duryodhana, reminding him of Vidura's warnings from the very beginning about this son bringing destruction to their entire race.
A mother asking the father to abandon their son to save everyone else? That's powerful. Does it work? Does Dhritarashtra listen this time?
No. Incredibly tragically, no. He gives in to Duryodhana again. He allows the second game.
It's like he's cursed or just completely weak-willed. And Yudhishthira, surely he wouldn't agree to play dice again.
He does. Again, bound by that kingly code, or maybe just fatalism, he accepts the summons.
So the outcome is inevitable. What are the exact terms of the exile?
12 years living in the forest, then a 13th year where they have to live totally incognito, in disguise.
Incognito.
Yes. And if anyone recognizes them during that 13th year, they have to do the whole 12 years of exile all over again.
That's incredibly harsh. Designed to keep them out of power for a very long time. How do they leave Hastinapur this time? Their departure must have been heavy.
It's described with intense symbolism. Every action they take signifies their future plans, their state of mind.
Like what?
Yudhishthira covers his face, shame, maybe not wanting to see the destruction to come. Bhima flexes his arms, showing his strength, promising revenge. Arjuna grabs handfuls of sand, scattering it like the arrows he'll unleash.
Wow, very visual.
Yep.
What about the others?
Sahadeva smears his face with dust, disguising himself. Nakula does the same, trying to be inconspicuous. Draupadi follows them, hair unbound, weeping, foreshadowing the fate of the Kaurava women. And their priest, Damya, walks ahead, chanting hymns to Yama, the god of death.
Chanting hymns to the god of death as they leave? Chills. It's like a funeral procession for peace.
It really is. And nature itself seems to react. The omens return.
What kind of omens this time?
Lightning without clouds, earthquakes, the sun being eclipsed by Rahu out of sequence, meteors falling, animals crying out warnings. The whole cosmos seems disturbed.
Everything is screaming, this is wrong, disaster is coming.
Exactly. And then another prophecy arrives. A celestial rishi appears.
What does this one say?
Confirms the previous one, basically. Destruction of the Kauravas in 14 years' time. Explicitly because of Duryodhana's fault, carried out by Bhima and Arjuna.
14 years, so the exile plus 1 year. The timeline is set. Does anyone on the Kaurava side acknowledge this looming doom? Like Drona, their teacher.
Drona does. He talks about the Pandavas having divine origins, confirms their power, and he grimly predicts the future war, even foretelling his own death by Dhritarashtra.
Even their own side sees it coming. Does Dhritarashtra have any final regrets?
There's a mention of him making one last half-hearted attempt to recall them with respect. But it's far too late. The wheels are in motion. The path to war is set.
What a sequence of events. Envy, manipulation, a rigged game, terrible humiliation, ignored warnings, bad omens. It's just relentless.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to sum this up. What are the absolute core takeaways from this deep dive into our sticky notes?
I think it really boils down to how Duryodhana's unchecked envy, relentlessly stoked by Sakuni's manipulation, led directly to that disastrous dice game. The game itself was fundamentally unfair, and the resulting humiliation of Draupadi was the point of no return. It set an unavoidable course towards war, despite all the warnings and omens.
Yeah, that feels right. And the aha moments for you, those details that really stick. For me, it's seeing the specifics of Duryodhana's envy, like the ocean gifts making him jealous. The sheer speed of the escalation in the dice game, losing brothers, then himself. Then, Draupadi's disrobing that miraculous element feels so significant. And finally, the symbolism of their departure, every gesture loaded with future meaning.
Those are powerful images. It really shows how these ancient stories pack so much punch. And hopefully, for you listening, this deep dive gave you that shortcut to understanding this crucial, complex part of the narrative, those key moments and insights without feeling buried in detail.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a thought to chew on, doesn't it? Think about how individual choices, especially when they're driven by ego, by envy, and when wisdom is ignored, how they can unleash such widespread destruction.
Right. Not just in ancient epics, but maybe even in our own lives or in society today. Where do we see similar patterns?
It invites you to think more about those big themes, doesn't it? Fate versus free will, what constitutes justice, the cycle of revenge. This story has layers upon layers to explore.